Strange Tales from a Chinese Studio, Story 46.
Imagine you wake up tomorrow, right? You step outside your front door and you find yourself stranded in a world where everything you know to be true about beauty, about merit, about, well, what it means to be successful is just completely inverted.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I don't mean just some slight cultural misunderstanding. I mean a total terrifying mirror image. Like in this world, things you pride yourself on, your skills, your education, your totally normal everyday face, they make you a hideous monster to everyone around you.
Right. Yeah, you're not just an outsider at that point.
Exactly. You are a terrifying aberration simply for being exactly who you are.
It completely strips away all that comforting external validation we rely on, just to understand our place in the world. I mean, when society's mirror reflects a literal monster back at you, holding on to your own sense of reality becomes this incredible psychological battle.
It really does. We are exploring a classic, wildly surreal Chinese tale written by Pu Songling back in the 17th century.
It's such a fascinating piece of literature.
It really is. It's called The Raksha Country and the Sea Market, and it's from his famous collection, Strange Tales from a Chinese Studio. But we aren't just reading a fairy tale today.
No, definitely not.
We have a really fascinating stack of sources to go through. We've got a brilliant new translation of the story itself, some deep historical analyses of the grueling Qing dynasty's civil service examinations, and even anthropological notes on Chinese maritime folklore.
Which really grounds the fantasy in something real.
Exactly. Our mission for you, listening right now, is to take this bizarre two-part fantasy adventure and look at the actual history beneath it. Because beneath the monsters and the dragons, this is a biting social satire about conformity, the masks we wear to survive toxic environments, and the heartbreaking illusion of a true meritocracy.
And to really understand the impact of this inverted world, we first have to, understand who our guide is and, more importantly, the historical context he represents. So our protagonist is a young man named Ma Ji. We also learn he goes by the courtesy name Long Mei. And Pu Songling, the author, he makes sure we know exactly what kind of person Ma Ji is right out of the gate.
Oh, absolutely.
He's a merchant's son, but he is staggeringly handsome. Like, he is so good looking that his community actually calls him Junren, which essentially translates to the handsome man.
I was actually looking at the translation notes on that introduction, and it mentions he was a recognized scholar by the time he was 14 years old. I mean, that seems incredibly young.
It is. It's exceptional.
Plus, there are all these details about him loving theater, singing, and dancing with the silk handkerchief on his head. He sounds like a local celebrity.
He essentially is a local celebrity.
Yeah.
And that detail about him being a registered scholar at 14, that is crucial. Like, in the context of 17th century China, under the Qing dynasty, society was rigidly structured by Confucian ideals.
Right, the whole social hierarchy thing.
Exactly. It placed scholars at the very top, followed by peasant farmers, then artisans, and finally, at the absolute bottom, merchants.
Wow, merchants at the bottom.
Yeah, because merchants were viewed with a lot of suspicion. They didn't produce anything, right? They just profited off the movement of goods. So for a merchant's son to pass the preliminary civil service examinations to become a registered scholar at age 14 is a massive social elevation.
So he's essentially a prodigy.
Totally. He is bridging the gap from the lowest social class to the highest.
And he also has this courtesy name, Long Mei. What is the significance of that? I mean, I thought a name was just a name.
Well, in ancient China, a person's birth name was considered somewhat private.
Yeah.
It was usually only used by older family members. When a young man reached adulthood, typically around 20, he would be given a courtesy name to be used by his peers and society at large as a mark of respect.
Oh, I see.
So the fact that Ma Ji has a courtesy name, or is well known by it already, it reinforces his elevated status and maturity despite his youth. He really is the golden boy. He's got the looks, the brains, the artistic flair, and the societal respect.
Which, of course, sets him up for a massive fall, because all of that idealism hits a brick wall in the form of his aging father.
Yeah, his father is not impressed.
Not at all. His father looks at his brilliant, poetry-writing, theater-loving son and delivers some incredibly harsh economic reality. He basically tells Ma Ji that a few volumes of books cannot be boiled to cure hunger, and they cannot be worn to protect against the cold.
It is the ultimate pragmatic intervention. And we really have to view this through the lens of Pu Songling himself.
The author.
Right. Pu Songling spent his entire life trying to pass the higher levels of those civil service examinations. Millions of young men dedicated their entire lives to studying for these tests, which were incredibly rigid and, honestly, often corrupt.
And most of them failed, right?
The vast majority failed repeatedly, including Pu Songling, which left them impoverished and bitter. So Ma Ji's father is essentially saying, look, the scholar route is a gamble. We are merchants. We need to eat.
So Ma Ji listens. He actually listens. He abandons his books, leaves the theater behind, and joins the family business of maritime trade. He sets sail. And this is where the historical reality ends and the bizarre fantasy really kicks into high gear.
It really takes a turn here.
It does. A massive hurricane hits his ship. They are blown completely off course, drifting for days into the unknown, until Ma Ji finally washes ashore. He survives, steps onto land, and walks into this unnamed metropolis. But the people there, they are shockingly ugly to him.
Grotesque, even.
Yeah, and the feeling is completely mutual. They take one look at this handsome, refined scholar, and they see a literal demon. They scream and run away in mass panic.
The psychological shock of that is profound. I mean, think about it. He has been told his entire life that he's the handsome man. Suddenly, entire crowds are fleeing from him in absolute horror. In this new land, his beauty is grotesque.
It's wild.
What's fascinating, though, is observing Ma Ji's immediate adaptation. He is starving, he's isolated, and he's been stripped of all his societal privilege.
And he resorts to a very dark survival tactic. The translation actually points out that when he realizes people are terrified of him, he weaponizes his normal face.
He does.
He runs at people who are sitting down to eat, intentionally scaring them away so he can scavenge their leftover food. It's like he becomes the monster they think he is.
It really highlights a grim behavioral truth. When a society repeatedly treats an individual as a monster, there's a really powerful psychological pull to just, adopt the monstrous role.
Yeah.
Especially if it offers a tangible benefit like survival.
Yeah, he leans into the terror he inspires because the alternative is literally starving to death.
Exactly. But he doesn't stay in the city. He eventually wandered out into this remote mountain village, and the dynamic shifts slightly there.
Right. The people in the village are dressed in rags, like beggars. They still look strange to him, but maybe a bit more human. And there's this very tense standoff. Ma Ji sits under a tree, and the villagers don't run, but they stay far away, just watching him to see if he's going to attack.
They are totally assessing him as a predator. It requires a really slow, deliberate de-escalation on his part.
How does he do it?
Well, Ma Ji smiles, he speaks to them, and despite a language barrier, they somehow manage to communicate. He explains he's a traveler, not a beast. The villagers are relieved, but there's this telling detail regarding their proximity to him based on their appearance.
Yes, I wanted to bring this up. The ugliest villagers, the ones who are presumably higher status in this weird world, they refuse to come near him. They just stare from a distance and then leave.
Right.
Only the villagers whose features resemble normal human standards stick around to actually offer him food and wine. And this is where Ma Ji finally asks them why everyone is so terrified of him.
And the villagers explain that they have heard legends of a place 26,000 miles to the west called China, where the people look incredibly bizarre and strange. They honestly thought it was just a myth until Ma Ji washed ashore.
It's a great moment of relative perspective, but then Ma Ji asks the million-dollar question. He asks them why they are living in rags out in the mountains, while the people in the city have all the wealth.
And the answer they provide is the absolute crux of Pu Songling's entire satire. In their country, they explain, society does not value literature or essays or poetry or even administrative competence.
None of it matters.
None of it. The only thing that dictates a person's worth is their physical appearance. However, the standard of beauty is a complete inversion of reality. The more grotesque, deformed, and ugly an individual is, the higher their societal status.
I really want to pause on this inverted standard for a second because we need a good analogy to grasp how damaging this is. We often talk about bizarre world scenarios, but this isn't just about people preferring ugly paintings over pretty ones.
No, it's systemic.
It is deeply systemic. It's like an institutional gatekeeping system where incompetence is the literal metric for promotion. Imagine a corporate ladder where the person who loses the company the most money is immediately named CEO, while the employee who actually generates profit is fired for being a liability.
That's a great way to put it.
Or an academic system where a thesis is graded highest not for its clarity and insight, but for being intentionally incomprehensible and flawed.
That captures the institutional rot perfectly. And the text outlines a terrifyingly rigid caste system built on this exact absurdity. The absolute ugliest individuals are elevated to the highest government offices.
The top of the top.
Right. And then the moderately ugly become local magistrates. The slightly less ugly might find work as favored retainers for the nobility, basically just scraping by.
And the people in the mountain village, the ones who look somewhat normal.
They are at the absolute bottom of the social hierarchy. And this leads to a truly chilling revelation about their culture. The villagers explain that when parents in this country give birth to a baby that looks normal, they view it as a terrible curse.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the social stigma is so severe, and the child's prospects are so non-existent, that parents frequently abandon these normal-looking infants to die in the wilderness.
That is just horrific. They are leaving their own children to die simply because they don't fit a bizarre societal mold.
They only keep them if it is absolutely necessary to continue the family line. Pusongling is really illustrating how deeply entrenched, corrupt societal standards can just override fundamental human nature.
The parental instinct is just gone.
Exactly. The pressure to conform to the system's definition of what is valuable destroys that instinct. A system that rewards the grotesque inherently demands the sacrifice of the innocent and the authentic.
So hearing all this, Maji realizes he needs to see the system at its core. He asks the villagers the name of the country. They tell him it is the Great Raksha country, and the capital is about 30 miles north. He asks them to take him there to see the people in charge.
And if the mountain village represents the marginalized outskirts of this society, the capital city is its beating, corrupt heart. The architectural details provided in the text are highly symbolic here.
The descriptions of the capital are so striking. The walls of the city aren't made of typical stone. They are made of pitch black stone. The buildings tower 100 feet high. But the most interesting detail to me is the roofs.
The red stones, yes.
Right. They don't use clay tiles. The roofs are covered in these red stones. The villagers tell Maji that if you take one of these red stones and grind it against your fingernail, it looks exactly like cinnabar.
We really need to unpack the significance of cinnabar in ancient Chinese culture, because Pusongling doesn't include that detail by accident. Cinnabar is mercury sulfide.
Which is incredibly toxic.
Precisely. Historically, it was heavily utilized by Taoist alchemists who believed it was a crucial ingredient in the elixir of life, like a potion for immortality. The vibrant red color was associated with vitality and blood.
But didn't a lot of emperors die from that?
Oh yeah. Emperors and nobles who ingested these cinnabar concoctions frequently suffered from severe mercury poisoning. It led to madness, physical deterioration, and death. So by covering the capital city in cinnabar-like stones, the story is painting a picture of a society obsessed with an artificial, toxic pursuit of power.
Wow.
The wealth of the city is literally poisonous. It looks vibrant and important, but underneath it is causing systemic decay.
That context changes the entire image of the city for me. It is a monument to toxic wealth. And the people ruling this toxic city are exactly who you would expect. Maji and the villagers are standing near the royal port when it dismisses for the day. The elites walk out, and the villagers point out the most powerful man in the nation, the prime minister.
And the physical description of the prime minister is where the satire hits its absolute sharpest point. It directly targets the ineptitude of government officials.
Because he looks ridiculous, right?
Beyond ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's described as having 2 ears that grow backwards, facing his rear. He has 3 nostrils, and his eyelashes are so long and thick that they hang down over his eyes like curtains.
This isn't just random body horror, though. There is a specific bureaucratic critique here. Think about a politician whose ears face backward. He's physically incapable of hearing the voices of the people right in front of him.
Right, he can't hear forward-facing, progressive ideas.
Exactly. He only hears the echoes of the past or the sycophants whispering behind his back.
And his eyes are completely veiled by those curtain-like eyelashes. He is blind to the reality of his nation. He can't clearly see the suffering of the impoverished villagers or the actual state of his country.
It's all obscured.
His vision is entirely obscured by his own grotesque features, which, tragically, his society has bizarrely deemed a mark of superiority. And the 3 nostrils suggest this gluttony of consumption, breathing in more than his fair share. It's just a brilliant physical manifestation of corrupt governance.
As the lower-ranking officials walk out, their ugliness decreases relative to their rank. But the citizenry's reaction to Maji in the capital is even more extreme than his first encounter.
They're terrified.
The people in the streets trip over themselves trying to run away from him. The villagers who brought him have to constantly plead with the crowds, explaining that Maji isn't a demon.
He is a total pariah. And the villagers really try to help him. They recognize that Ma Ji is intelligent and educated, so they attempt to introduce him to the wealthy elites.
Trying to network, basically.
Exactly, trying to get him a foot in the door. But every time they approach a grand estate, the gatekeepers take one look at Ma Ji's face and just slam the heavy doors shut. No one will allow him inside. The men and women of the upper class only dare to whisper about him and peek through the cracks in their doors.
It is a profound state of alienation. I mean, he is in the center of a bustling metropolis, surrounded by people, yet completely isolated. He is being rejected purely because he does not conform to an absurd standard over which he has no control.
It's incredibly frustrating to read.
I think anyone who has ever tried to break into an insular industry or a closed-off social circle can relate to this. You stand on the outside, knowing you have the skills and the merit, but because you don't look the part or come from the right background or, speak the accepted jargon, the doors stay closed. The whispering behind the doors is the absolute worst part.
And when the mainstream avenues to success are completely blocked like that, an individual is forced to seek alternative, often marginalized paths. The villagers realize the current power structure will never accept Ma Ji, so they introduce him to a forgotten eccentric.
Right. They tell him about this old man, roughly 120 years old, who used to be a diplomat for the previous king. This man has traveled extensively and seen bizarre things, so they figure he might not run away.
He's worldly.
Yeah. They go to his estate, and the diplomat certainly looks the part of a Raksha elite. He has eyes that bulge out of his skull and a beard that curls up tight like a hedgehog. But he is actually thrilled to meet Ma Ji.
He says he has traveled everywhere but never made it to China, and he immediately decides he must introduce Ma Ji to the king.
The diplomat treats Ma Ji as an honored guest, throwing a lavish banquet. And this banquet provides a masterclass in cultural dissonance and subjective aesthetics. The diplomat brings out his prize entertainment, a dozen female singers. The text compares their appearance to yakshas.
Yes, the yakshas.
Wait, so what exactly is a yaksha in this context? Like, what does that mean?
Yakshas originate in Hindu and Buddhist mythology. They're a broad class of nature spirits, but in Chinese Buddhist folklore, they are often depicted as fierce, sometimes demonic, warrior-like figures.
So not delicate at all.
No, they're certainly not associated with conventional feminine beauty or refined grace.
The singers are wearing white silk turbans and dragging these long red robes, and their performance is wild. The translation describes the melodies and rhythms as completely bizarre, strange, and chaotic. Yet the old diplomat is absolutely enthralled. He loves it.
To the Raksha diplomat, this chaotic display is the pinnacle of high art. He then asks Ma Ji if China has music like this.
And Ma Ji politely says yes, right.
Yeah, which prompts the diplomat to request a performance. Because he lacks instruments, Ma Ji simply beats a rhythm on the table and sings a traditional Chinese tune.
The diplomat's reaction is incredible. He is completely astonished. He tells Ma Ji that the music sounds like the cry of a phoenix or the roar of a dragon.
The irony there is palpable. When Ma Ji performs authentic, refined human art, the Raksha diplomat interprets it as something mythical, animalistic, and otherworldly. He literally cannot process it as human culture.
But despite the diplomat's enthusiasm, the structural gatekeeping of Raksha country holds firm. The diplomat attempts to secure an audience with the king for Ma Ji, but the other government officials block the request.
Of course they do.
They warn the king that Ma Ji's face is so horrifying, so monstrous, that looking at him will cause the king physical harm. They treat Ma Ji's authenticity as a biological threat to the monarchy.
Because the system is designed to protect itself from any evidence that contradicts its established norms. An undeniably handsome, capable man threatens the entire foundation of a hierarchy built on ugliness.
It would break their reality.
Exactly. And this rejection pushes Ma Ji into a corner, leading to the absolute climax of the Raksha narrative.
He realizes that his true self will never be accepted. One night, Ma Ji is drinking heavily. He is frustrated, desperate, and likely deeply depressed by his isolation. In a drunken state, he grabs a sword and begins a wild, theatrical sword dance.
And then he does it.
Yeah, during the dance, he grabs a piece of coal and smears it all over his face. He intentionally paints himself to look like Zhang Fei.
The choice of Zhang Fei is a brilliant cultural touchstone by Po Yong-songling. In Chinese history and literature, specifically the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Zhang Fei is a legendary general.
Right.
In traditional Peking opera, character traits are communicated through specific face paint colors and patterns. Zhang Fei is famously depicted with a heavily painted black face, bulging eyes, and a very aggressive demeanor.
So the blackface paint isn't just about making himself look dirty, it's a specific, culturally understood mask. He is adopting the persona of a boorish, loud, unrefined brute.
Exactly. He is burying his refined, scholarly identity under a theatrical caricature of aggression and roughness. And the tragedy lies in the diplomat's immediate reaction. The diplomat looks at Ma Ji, covered in black coal, acting like a brute. And for the first time, he tells Ma Ji that he looks beautiful.
The diplomat is ecstatic. He tells Ma Ji that with this makeup, he could easily get a high-paying government position. But isn't Ma Ji a bit of a hypocrite here? I mean, he clearly despises this society's values. But the moment he is offered a shortcut to wealth and power, he takes it. He could have just walked away.
That is a very valid, pragmatic reading of his character. Pu Songling is not painting Ma Ji as an infallible saint. He is a human being subject to the pressures of survival and the lure of status.
True, we all have a breaking point.
Right. When the diplomat pressures him, arguing that he shouldn't let his true face stand in the way of glory and wealth, Ma Ji hesitates. He recognizes the spiritual cost. But ultimately, the isolation is too heavy. He agrees to wear the mask.
It's the ultimate corporate sellout. It is exactly like adapting a completely fake persona to survive a toxic office culture. You start using their meaningless buzzwords, you laugh at the boss's offensive jokes, you pretend to care about metrics you know are fraudulent, all just to get the promotion and stop feeling marginalized. You basically paint your face with corporate coal.
And the results of Ma Ji's compromise are instantaneous and deeply ironic. The diplomat hosts another banquet and invites the powerful officials. Ma Ji comes out wearing his coal mask. The officials are stunned.
They love it.
They marvel at how someone who was so unimaginably ugly before could suddenly become so incredibly beautiful.
It is sheer absurdity. They are standing right in front of him. They know it's the exact same guy. They know he has coal smeared on his face. But because the performance conforms to their twisted standard, they embrace him. And Ma Ji really leans into the lie. The translation notes, he starts singing Yang tunes. What are those?
In the theatrical landscape of the Ming and Qing dynasties, there was a hierarchy of operatic styles. The elite, scholarly class preferred kunko opera, which was highly refined, poetic, and very subtle.
Okay, so the good stuff.
Right. Yiliang tunes, on the other hand, were a regional style known for being loud, percussive, heavily reliant on cymbals, and popular among the common people. By elite standards, they were considered vulgar or uncultured.
So he's intentionally being lowbrow.
Exactly. So the refined scholar, Ma Ji, is purposefully singing the most unrefined, loud music he can muster to match his aggressive Zhang Fei face paint.
And the Raksha officials just eat it up. They are captivated. The very next day, they write letters recommending Ma Ji to the king. The king summons him, is delighted by his quote-unquote graceful performance of these loud tunes, and immediately appoints him as a lower minister.
He's made it.
Suddenly, Ma Ji is wealthy. He has a high rank. He attends private banquets with the king. He has achieved everything society dictates he should want.
He has reached the summit of Raksha society. But this is where Pu Songling delivers his warning about the psychological toll of achieving success through a false self. Ma Ji has the rank and the wealth, but he is completely hollow.
The imposter syndrome must be wild.
Oh, absolutely. Over time, the other officials inevitably realize that his beauty is fake. They figure out he is wearing coal.
They realize he's an imposter, and instead of confronting him, they just ostracize him again. They constantly whisper behind his back. When he walks into a room, the conversation stops. Nobody is genuinely friendly with him.
Despite his high rank, Ma Ji is entirely alone. He is arguably more isolated now than when he was starving on the streets, because now he is trapped in a prison he helped build. The daily anxiety, the sheer exhaustion of waking up every morning and painting his face just to maintain a hollow lie, it becomes psychologically unbearable. The mask becomes heavier than the rejection.
It completely breaks him. He begs the king for permission to retire. The king refuses. He begs for sick leave. Finally, the king grants him a 3-month leave of absence. Ma Ji doesn't hesitate.
He bolts.
He packs up his accumulated gold and jewels, and he flees the toxic capital. He heads straight back to the remote mountain village, to the impoverished people who accepted his true face before he ever put on the coal.
This return marks a fundamental shift in Ma Ji's values. He distributes his newly acquired wealth among his old friends in the village. This act of shedding the false wealth of the Raksha court ironically becomes the key that unlocks the door to a genuine utopia.
It's like paying it forward actually works out for him.
Yeah. The villagers are overwhelmed by his generosity and tell him they want to repay him by purchasing rare treasures at the sea market.
Now, Maji is confused. They are in a remote mountain village. Where are they going to find a market with rare treasures?
The villagers explain the legend of the Haishi, the sea market. It is a mythical gathering place in the middle of the ocean where merfolk from the 4 seas and traders from 12 different nations converge to exchange jewels and incredible goods.
And it has this magical signal, right?
Yes, the market's opening is signaled by magical red birds flying over the water.
The contrast between Raksha country and the sea market is immediate and stark. Raksha was closed off, dark, and defined by gatekeeping and isolation. The sea market is defined by infinite connection, open exchange, and the mingling of all nations and mythical beings.
Maharaji, remembering his roots as a merchant, is thrilled. He asks to go with them. They board a ship, and the source material describes a vessel that clearly doesn't belong to the mundane world.
It's like a magical speedboat.
Basically, it is a flat-bottomed boat with high railings, rowed by 10 men. It cuts through the water with supernatural speed, flying like an arrow for 3 straight days.
The journey across the water represents a transition from the corrupt, mortal world into a realm of pure mythology. Maritime travel in Tu Songling's era was heavily restricted, wasn't it?
Heavily. During the Ming and early Qing dynasties, the government periodically enforced the Hejin, or sea bans, forbidding private maritime trade. The ocean was viewed as a lawless, dangerous void, but also a place of boundless possibility and ancient magic.
So after 3 days, they see it. A city seemingly suspended in the clouds and the water. The walls are made of massive blocks and watchtowers scrape the sky. The water around the city is swarming with trading ships, thick as ants.
It's a bustling hub.
Maji disembarks and walks into the market, surrounded by glowing pearls and gems that just don't exist in the human world. But the pivotal moment occurs when a young man rides through the market on a magnificent horse.
This is the 3rd prince of the Eastern Ocean, and his reaction to Maji provides the ultimate catharsis for the reader and the character.
Yes.
The prince stops, looks at Maji, and does not see a monster. He sees a, quote, distinguished foreigner. He immediately recognizes Maji's inherent worth.
Someone finally sees him for who he actually is. The prince invites Maji to ride with him. They leave the bustling market and ride toward the island shore. And then the prince's horse leaps straight off the cliff directly into the churning ocean. Maji screams, bracing for the impact, completely expecting to drown.
But the water defies physics. The ocean literally parts before them, standing up on either side like sheer, unyielding walls of water, creating a dry path straight down to the ocean floor.
They ride down into the depths and arrive at the Dragon Palace. And the architectural descriptions here are the exact opposite of the Raksha capital.
No more cinnabar.
No. Instead of oppressive black stone and toxic roofs, the Dragon Palace is constructed of light and clarity. The beams are made of tortoiseshell. The roof tiles are shimmering fish scales. The walls are made of dazzling, transparent crystal that reflects light everywhere.
It is an environment of total transparency. And the ruler of this realm, the Dragon King, embodies this clarity of vision. When the prince introduces Machurbi, the Dragon King does not evaluate his physical appearance.
What does he look at?
He evaluates his intellect.
This is the true meritocracy Marjorie has been searching for. The Dragon King says he has heard Maji is a great scholar and requests that he write an essay commemorating the sea market. And the tools provided for this task are legendary.
Just beautiful tools.
A crystal inkstone, a writing brush made from a dragon's beard, paper as brilliantly white as snow, and ink that carries the scent of blooming orchids.
Every single element of his environment now supports, elevates, and honors his true talent. Maji takes these magnificent tools and composes a sweeping 1,000-word masterpiece right on the spot. He presents it to the Dragon King, who reads it and immediately praises his magnificent talent, declaring that Maji's writing brings glory to the underwater kingdom.
We have to contrast this moment with the reality of Pu Songling's life and the imperial examination system. The Dragon King asks for a piece of creative, expressive writing and judges it fairly based on its merits. How did that compare to the exams Pu Songling was constantly failing?
Oh, is night and day. The Qing Dynasty civil service exams required candidates to write what was called the 8-legged essay.
The 8-legged essay?
Yeah, it was a highly rigid, formalistic style of writing where the structure was strictly mandated. Candidates had to adhere entirely to orthodox Confucian interpretations. Original thought, creativity, and personal flair were actively penalized.
That sounds miserable.
It was. Candidates were locked in tiny, freezing cells for days to write these essays. It was an exercise in intellectual conformity. So the Dragon Palace represents Pusangling's ultimate fantasy, an intellectual utopia where pure, free-flowing thought is recognized and rewarded by a just authority.
And because of his authentic talent, Maji is rewarded with a fantasy life. The Dragon King is so impressed that he offers his own daughter, the Dragon Princess, to Maji in marriage.
The ultimate prize in a fairy tale.
The wedding is spectacular. The princess appears looking like a true immortal, accompanied by the sound of jade pendants and spontaneous music. Maji becomes the prince consort.
He transitions from a starving scavenger forced to smear coal on his face to royalty in a crystal palace, entirely based on his genuine merit. The narrative really lingers on the sensory luxury of his new life.
It sounds incredibly lavish.
He sleeps on a coral bed, decorated with 8 kinds of precious treasures. His curtains are tied back with pearls the size of bowls.
He travels in chariots pulled by green dragons, flanked by warrior knights. But amidst all this wish fulfillment, there are 2 specific details in the palace courtyard that carry deep thematic weight. The first is the jade tree.
The jade tree is a classic symbol of Taoist immortality and perfection. Its trunk resembles clear white glass with a pale yellow core and leaves carved from vibrant green jade.
And when the blossoms fall from the tree, they don't wilt and rot like normal flowers. They hit the ground with a clear, ringing sound. When you pick them up, they are solid, looking like perfectly carved red agate. It is a world where nature itself is an unchanging, flawless work of art.
Yet into this flawless, immortal world, a profound sense of sorrow is introduced. And this brings us to the second detail, the golden bird.
The text describes a strange bird with gold and green feathers. It sings beautifully, but its voice is described as sounding like mournful jade. It is a sound that pierces the heart. If this dragon palace is the ultimate utopia, a perfect meritocracy where he is finally loved for who he is, why is the bird song so incredibly sad? Why introduce pain into paradise?
Well, the bird's melancholic song serves as a vital emotional tether to the mortal world. It reminds Marji that while the Dragon Palace is perfect, it is a static perfection.
Right.
He is fundamentally a mortal man with earthly ties. The song stirs his deep-seated longing for his homeland and, crucially, for his aging parents. In traditional Chinese culture, the concept of shao, or filial piety, is paramount.
You cannot just live in a perfect underwater palace while your mortal parents are growing old and dying without you there to care for them. That would be a massive moral failure.
Exactly. The utopia of the Dragon Palace lacks the messy, painful, but totally essential bonds of mortal family duty. A life without those duties, no matter how beautiful, is incomplete for a human.
This internal conflict eventually tears him apart. After 3 years of living in this perfect underwater world, Maji breaks down. He confesses his anguish to the Dragon Princess. He leaps so hard that his clothes are soaked in sweat and tears. He tells her how desperately he misses his parents.
And the Dragon Princess's response demonstrates a really profound, pragmatic love. She understands the fundamental law of their universe, the realms of immortals, and mortals must remain separate.
She can't just go with him.
No, she cannot leave the sea to live on the surface, but she absolutely refuses to let her love for him obstruct his filial duty.
It is a heartbreaking separation because they are clearly devoted to one another, but she lays out a very specific, detailed plan for how they will manage their separation. She tells him that as long as he remains faithful to her in his heart, they will remain husband and wife, regardless of the physical distance.
She redefines their marriage around spiritual fidelity rather than proximity.
She's also highly practical regarding his life on the surface. She tells him he will need assistance with domestic chores and permits him to take a maid, but strictly forbids him from taking a new wife.
And then she reveals a massive prophecy. She tells him she is pregnant with twins.
Wow.
She gives him specific naming instructions. If it is a girl, name her Longgong, meaning Dragon Palace. If it's boy, name him Fuhai, meaning Happy Ocean.
She provides for his material future as well, right? She gifts him a bag made of fish leather filled with enough rare jewels to ensure his family's wealth for generations.
Yes, and finally, she returns a pair of red jade lotus flowers he had given her. She instructs him to wait exactly 3 years, and on April 8th, to row a boat to the South Island, where she will return his children to him.
The departure is just devastating. Maji enters a carriage drawn by white sheep. He rides up out of the ocean, and as he looks back, the waters simply close over the path behind her. The sea goes flat. The magic is gone. He's back in the mortal world, entirely alone again.
He returns to his hometown and the reality of mortal time sets in. Everyone had assumed he was dead. Interestingly, his original mortal wife had already remarried and moved on, a fact the Dragon Princess had accurately foreseen.
His family tries to pressure him into remarrying, but he holds fast to his vow. He takes a concubine to help with the household chores, honoring the princess's exact parameters, and he waits. He waits for 3 long years for April 8th.
And when the appointed day arrives, he rows his boat out to the South Island.
And the scene he finds is pure mythology. Floating on the surface of the ocean are 2 beautiful toddlers, a boy and a girl. They are sitting on the water, laughing and playing, entirely buoyant. Attached to their heads are the red jade lotus flowers.
It is the manifestation of the prophecy and tangible proof of the princess's enduring bond. As Maji reaches out, the children leap into his arms. But tucked into the boy's clothing, he finds a letter.
The letter from the sea. The princess writes of her intense sorrow, comparing her isolation to change, the goddess trapped alone on the moon, and the weaver girl, separated from her mortal husband by the vast expanse of the Milky Way. She lives in a palace of crystal, but she is emotionally desolate.
However, the letter contains a powerful supernatural promise. Because Maji kept his vow of fidelity, their connection remains unbroken. She cannot live with him, but she promises that when his mother eventually passes away, she will bridge the divide between worlds to perform her duties as a daughter-in-law at the grave.
The narrative jumps forward to that exact moment. Maji's mother passes away. During the burial, a woman suddenly appears at the gravesite dressed in traditional mourning clothes.
The princess.
Right. Before the shocked family can react, the sky violently darkens, thunder crashes, a torrential rain falls, and in a flash of lightning, she vanishes.
It is a chaotic elemental visitation, but the physical evidence she leaves behind is miraculous. The text notes that the pine trees planted around the grave, which had completely withered and died, suddenly spring back to vibrant life after the storm.
Showing her magic.
It symbolizes her life-giving power and her enduring spiritual connection to his family.
The story also gives us a brief glimpse into the lives of the magical twins. As the son Fuhai grows up, he discovers he possesses his mother's supernatural bloodline. He learns to dive into the ocean, parting the waters, to swim down and visit her in the Dragon Palace.
But the daughter, long gone, cannot. Bound by the societal restrictions placed on women in that era, she cannot freely travel or dive into the sea. She remains confined to her room, weeping for the mother she cannot visit.
And the Dragon Princess responds to her daughter's grief. One day, the sky darkens again, and the princess miraculously manifests directly inside Long Gong's room. She comforts her daughter and provides her with an unimaginable magical dowry, an 8-foot-tall coral tree, precious dragon brain incense, and hundreds of flawless pearls.
A literal fairy tale ending for her.
Yeah. Maji hears the commotion and rushes into the room. He grabs his wife's hand, weeping. But a deafening clap of thunder shakes the house and she vanishes into thin air. That explosive, heartbreaking moment is the final image of them together.
It is a breathtaking and bittersweet conclusion to the narrative. Maji has secured his family's legacy and experienced true, authentic love. But he must live the remainder of his mortal life sustained only by memories in these brief, violent moments of supernatural reunion.